our next speaker here, I don't know that we need any introduction. Joel Salatin, we are grateful that you're here with us.
Thank you. It's great to be with you. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you, Jared.
You bet, you bet. So, yeah, I think this topic kind of fits. We're talking about building a legacy business that's regenerative, and we're going to choose to do that with animals and crops and livestock. And so, I mean, I, I, if we could vote, we would vote you in as Secretary of Agriculture. But since we can't, we just get to read your books and listen to your podcasts and glean some of the knowledge vicariously that way. So we're grateful to have you here.
Thank you.
Uh, we'll just let you run with it. Do you have a presentation you want to share? Do you?
Yeah, I do. I made some notes here. So what my marching orders here from you all was the idea. So that my title here is um, I love working with these old people, and and the average American farmer is now 60 years old. We have a real crisis of succession, as you know, in agriculture. In the next 15 years, some half of all America's farm equity, that's buildings, land, equipment, is going to change hands. And the question is, whose hands is it going to go into? And so I want to focus on something that's really near and heart, and that is this whole generational succession and how you have a habitat that nurtures um, and attracts young people. If anybody comes to visit our farm here, you'll come in, and I'm the old geezer, and I'm surrounded by a plethora of these 20 and 30 somethings young people who who are just excited and enthusiastic to be here. Some are obviously on staff. We have about 22 salaries generated here by the farm now, and almost everybody is 40 or younger. And so I'm by far and away the old guy in the group, and by the way, probably the most dispensable at this point. And so I've made mistakes, but I've made some successes, and so I want to drill down a little bit on what how to create a habitat that really that's magnetic for young people. And so I'm going to start with attitude, the attitude of the older generation. And I think there's a couple of characteristics here about attitude, and that is constant discovery. Am I living like every day is a new beginning? Am I living every day as if, what can I discover today? This is about, what can I improve? What can I innovate? What can I be creative about? We farmers, especially once you get past, 40 or 50, you get kind of, stuck in your ways. I've been doing it this way all my life. You've got this kind of notion that this is just the way it is, and we get kind of squeamish about trying new things. In fact, there's a psychological and a physical reason why that's true, is because new things require failure. You're not successful when you try new things. You have to beat around and do some experimentation before you can actually be successful. And as you get older, you don't want to have as many failures, because it's harder to pick yourself up when it fails. And so I get all that, but exuding, but just living in an attitude, a spirit of improvement, innovation, creativity. I'm wanting to discover, what can you teach me? What can I learn today? That is an attitude that is magnetic for young people. They want to be around older people who are still excited and enthusiastic about learning and discovering and finding new things. Next part of attitude I would call mentoring. And that's just where as a mentor, we have to be patient with ignorance. I don't know how many older farmers I've talked to, and well, I don't want anybody, a young person around here yapping at my heels. I can't imagine something, worse than having a young person yapping at my heels. And all I can say there is, okay, so you really do want to age alone? Most farmers my age now are lonelier than they've ever been in their life. The kids are up and gone, and now it's just, the wife and I, and we um and we're really alone. And so if we're going to change that trajectory, we have to become patient with ignorance. We have to embrace novice and lack of understanding. And it's really exciting to have these young people here who just love doing what I do. I've gathered eggs all my life, but you get a young 20-year-old that says, "Oh, I get to gather eggs today? Oh, really? Do I get to gather eggs? You mean I actually get to pack a box of green peppers? We get to put those in a box? Yeah, 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 we do." And it suddenly, as an an older person who's been doing this, all their life, this suddenly brings on a new energy and a new passion for, yeah, what I do is special. It is cool, and very few people in the world get to do this. How many people in the world get to pick up chicks? How many people in the world get to, gut a chicken, or pick up firewood, cut a tree? And so the feedback here from mentoring is valuable, for the older generation as much as it is being mentored to the young people. And it creates, the importance of your experience leveraged on the young generation. And then the third attitude I would say, so we've got, an idea of it's always beginning. There's always a beginning, constant discovery. We've got mentoring. And then I would say the third element in attitude is delegation. And boy, this is tough. Most old farmers, they don't trust young people. They don't spend all my life trying to hold this place together, and you're just gonna, you know, sell it down, sell it down the river. These new harebrained, newfangled ideas. And the fact is that you never get to you never get to expand, to grow, even to grow as an individual, unless you can get people alongside you with complementary skills. Otherwise, you're spending a lot of time doing things you're not good at. And so finding people who are good at things that you're not good at is really powerful. And I mean, I still remember with fondness the day we finally got to where I didn't have to change the oil in the car. I didn't like changing oil in the car, and boy, it was a big day when I was able to delegate that to Jiffy Lube. And took that car to Jiffy Lube, and I was able to read a magazine article while the oil was changed. That was a big deal. It's also important, the delegation in duplicating your skills, so that you can duplicate a lot of your skill, and then you can focus your attention on some things that you um, that are more difficult. And so, I love pulling chicken shelters, for example. I love moving chickens. I know it makes them happy. It's good exercise. It's just wonderful. I got muscle memory. I can do it without thinking. I can think about other things. But I don't move a lot of chicken shelters now because I'm doing other things. And so, if you want to progress as a person, as a farmer, and you want to, do some new things, um, getting your skills duplicated is a big deal. And finally, I would just say that delegation frees you up to do more what you enjoy. My mentor, Alan Nation, the founder of Stockman Grass Farmer, always used to say that everybody should aspire to arrive at a point in their life when they get up in the morning, they don't have to do anything they don't want to do. And you can only get there if you begin delegating a lot of that, a lot those other things, so that you can then concentrate on the things that you're really good at, where your knowledge, your skill and your love intersect, the things that you love to do, you're good at, and you really enjoy. So that's kind of the what I would say the old person's attitude is. And I'm concentrating here on the old person because, see, I don't think that the problem with young people's interest in farming is a young people problem. I think it's an old people problem. I definitely think it's an old people problem. And if you create a habitat that is attractive, young people will come. There are plenty of young people who want to, work hard and enjoy the farm lifestyle. And it's up to us old geezers to create a germination tray that can make that happen. So my second point here, idea behind attitude, is practice. So how do you practice this, in real terms? So the first one is to create spheres of responsibility. You have to, with whether it's your children or with non-family members, but you have to carve out, establish trustworthy places where different parties can flourish and make decisions. You can't have a completely tyrannical top down, and you also can't farm by committee. If you have spheres of responsibility carved out, okay, you're in charge of the equipment, you're in charge of the marketing, you're in charge of the fertility, the agronomy, those guys. You're in charge of the pigs, you're in charge of the chickens, you're in charge of the cows, you're in charge of the tomatoes. By carving those out, you begin gradually establishing a track record. One of the reasons that older farmers don't want to relinquish control is because they've never allowed the next generation, again, related or unrelated, they've never allowed the next generation to actually sink or swim on their own responsibilities. And if we're, I find routinely, when I do successional consulting type stuff, the older generation says, well, they're just gonna mess it up. They're gonna lose it. They're gonna, it's this mentality. It's clear that the old generation cannot trust the young generation. Well, whose fault is that? The fault is in the older generation not carving out spheres of responsibility that allow a young person to create their own track record, to to have their own profit and loss, to make their own success and failure. They're dad's thumb all the time, and they're never able to have the freedom to fail. They've got to have the freedom to fail, and they've got to have clearly articulated job descriptions. What's my where can I make decisions? And they've got to be able to do that. Secondly, performance compensation. So we don't do, all the 22 people who make their living here, nobody works hourly. I don't believe in hourly pay. I want either salary with clear expectations, or I want performance-based compensation. What I want is shared risk. That's the idea. Always shared risk. I don't want to get somebody paid just for showing up. And so we have memorandums of understanding, we call them MOUs, that clearly explain our expectations to them, their expectations to us. What will we provide? What will you provide? And the compensation plan. That way, if we've got somebody, for example, running an egg mobile and gathering eggs, and they failed to close it up, and a fox kills 12 chickens tonight, well, they just lost egg production, and their paycheck just went down. Those are the kind of people we want to work with us, who have enough self-confidence to take a performance-oriented compensation package. And then you've got to have SOPs, standard operating procedures. A lot of people don't realize that for example, our chicken shelter, when I say, let's go move chicken shelters, that phrase, move chicken shelters, we have a 6-page standard operating procedure written out for that phrase, move chicken shelters. 6 pages of SOPs. This creates accountability. It makes sure that things are standardized to performance. And I would suggest it's the prerequisite for innovation. So here's what we tell our young people. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear your creativity. But if you do our SOP and meet our benchmarks first, then we're ready to listen to all the innovation and creativity you want. Do it our way first, and then you can do other things. And remember, this includes a why. Every procedure needs to have a why. Why do we put the waterers at 4 o'clock? Why do we put the feeders 18 inches in from the edge? There are all sorts of whys. And so an SOP gives you a chance to articulate the actual how to, as well as the why. And then my final and third point here on how to create this habitat to attract young people is about energy. Is just overall energy. A lot of farms you visit, and it's just it's kind of sad. It's just kind of sad, and you can tell that there's just it's lacking in energy. Well, chances are in that kind of situation there aren't any young people around. And so how do we create energy? How do we create a farm that has energy to move it forward? And I would say, first of all, it requires a mission statement. And most of us on this call, I'm sure, know Alan Savory. And I think if Alan Savory is remembered for just one thing, it would be the single sentence mission statement. And if you don't have one or can't recite yours, uh, shame on you. That's something that you need to do. Ours is to develop economically, ecologically, and emotionally enhancing agricultural prototypes and facilitate their duplication throughout the world. We have all of our young people memorize that mission statement. We want them, if a visitor comes into the farm and asks, we want our young people to be able to, here's the mission statement. Because the mission statement defines your destination, it defines your vision, and as a result of knowing, having a clear destination and a vision, that then makes your farm magnetically it makes it magnetically attractive, okay, to young people. They're still attracted to great mission statements, which brings me to the second point of energy, and that's purpose. That's your why, your purpose. And for all the issues and dysfunctionality in our world, young people are still attracted to sacredness. They're still attracted to great causes, to righteous things, to things that are bigger than I am. And so, define your farm, or talk about your farm in terms that are elevated to that extent, that are energetically elevated. Don't say, well, we produce calves. Don't say, we produce alfalfa or tomatoes. Rather, think about, are we healing the land? Are we building the soil? Are we making a legacy for, the next generation, that they'll have more commons, more water, more soil, more biodiversity, more breathable air, than we have. Elevate your mission, and that brings an energy to it that young people are attracted to. And then the last energy is just your feedback loop. Your feedback loop is your customers. That's one of the reasons I love direct marketing, is because from day one, our customers would come in here, and when our kids were small, and they'd tweak their cheeks and say, "Oh, our family completely depends on you for our food, and and if you don't keep producing food, we're all gonna die," those kind of things. And so the kids grew up with this affirmation, and that customer, that patron affirmation is just huge. And then your relationships that you work on, the relationships on the farm with your young people, with neighbors, with obviously with customers, and with people that are part of your infrastructure base. A person that hauls cattle, or a person that where you buy your tractor or get your chainsaw serviced, that sort of thing. Those relationships. Young people are very social. which brings me to the last point of the feedback loop is just the social vitality, creating things like that. Probably one of the best things that we ever did was many years ago. We jumped off the cliff. I mean, it was shocking the cost of it, but for our team here that lives on the farms, there's about 25 of us now who live on the farm, and we began uh, doing on-farm dinners. So we hire a chef for the summer when all the stewards and everything are here, and so many visitors are coming by, and so we can all eat together, as a full farm family in the evenings, weekday evenings, not weekends, weekday evenings. And it makes a wonderful kind of bow tie, on the end of the day to tie it off. We all come together, we eat together, we eat the food that we've been, working hard all day to produce. And and it gives us a time to, talk about the day, talk about tomorrow, decompress, and have a just an enjoyable time of fellowship as a farm family. And that social vitality, I can tell you, we are right now today doing our interviews for who's going to stay on as an apprentice next year, and every one of these young people, they just are blown away by the social vitality of the farm here. Uh, farms should not be lonely places. They should be centers, hubs of activity and energy, and and social relational complexity. And too many times our farms are too quiet. There's nobody around. Everybody's working in town, to support the farm addiction. And what we want to see is full-time folks generating additional incomes on a farm so that we can be surrounded at my stage of life by youthful energy and youthful enthusiasm. And having seen too many farmers on the other side, I'm just so grateful and blessed to have these young people around me, living here, being in my life, where I can say, "Hey, let's go move this mountain," and they say, "How far?" And that's an exciting thing to be able to do. And so I'm very thankful and blessed. But those are things that I think are kind of characteristics of developing a germination tray or a habitat that is attractive to young people and will make them want to work with an old geezer like me.
I like it. That's good. And so yeah, let's open it up for some questions here. And one of the questions that I consistently get, and I know you've spoken at length at about this, is how does a young person get started? And not we'll not say young person. How does any person get started when they feel that bug? Because they're
Yeah. Yeah, well, how do you get started? Well, Dave Ramsey, the financial guru, talks about the proximity principle. You have to get as close to what you want to do or be as you can possibly get or be. And so and so you have to start with what you can, with where you are, and do something. I mean, maybe it's just a quart jar of mung beans on the windowsill, but if you can't be faithful in little, you won't be faithful in much. And so um, a lot of times, here the tension, Jared, the tension is that the old person doesn't feel like the young person deserves what they got, and the young person feels like the old person doesn't trust them to get anywhere. And so you have this constant tension between the two. And so I've focused here on old people because that's where I am now, and what I've seen and learned and grown in my own life. But for the young person, you have to be content to be faithful, to not be in a hurry, to be patient and to let the incremental movement develop a little over time. And if you can be patient in that, then chances are it'll come. Now, I mean, are there things you can do? Absolutely. I mean, you can go on your time off from your town job, whatever, go find a farmer. Doesn't have to be, an organic farmer. Doesn't have just help him build fence, help him sort cows, plant tomatoes, whatever. Just give yourself up. Forget the Caribbean cruise, forget Netflix, forget all that stuff. If you want it bad enough, you've got to go after it. I mean, people love to talk about, where we are now, but they don't like to hear me talking about sleeping out in the chick brooder with a baseball bat to keep the rats out when we had a rat infestation. They don't like to hear me talking about 2 o'clock in the morning putting hay in the chicken shelters because we had a flood, keep the chickens up out of the dampness. I could go on and on like this, but this is not a whiner kind of thing. The fact is, you have to get after it and put yourself where you think you can get those opportunities. And those opportunities aren't going to come down at the local pub or the local bar. They're going to come as you devote yourself to people that you'd like to be like.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Yep, I like that proximity principle. Question here from Jim. It looks like somebody else agreed with it. How do you get the old geezer to change their attitude?
Yeah. So this is something that I do more and more now, where I'm consulting for these multi-generational issue things. And so here's my answer to that. The problem is dad and mom are afraid forget dad and mom. The older generation is afraid that the younger generation is going to bankrupt the operation. The young generation, they're frustrated because they can't try anything new on the older generation's place. The older generation has the capital, they haven't died yet. All right. So there's no inheritance yet. And so both generations have a valid problem with trust. I don't trust them to let me make any decisions, and I don't trust them with any decisions because they're going to lose it. And so both generations have to come together, and the younger generation has to ask the older generation, how much can you offer that I can control? 1 acre, 2 acres, this $2,000 enterprise, this $1,000 enterprise. What would you allow me to take charge of? I'll take full charge of it. I'll fix it. I'll sell it. I'll whatever I got to do. I'll take full charge of it. What will you let me have? And then when the old generation says, okay, you can have this corner or this enterprise or this thing, the younger generation cannot say, well, that's not enough. The young generation has to say, thanks, that's just fine. And then you be content with that and show yourself faithful in that. That's how you develop trust.
Yeah, well said. Clay asked a question, what's your strategy for continuing to learn from your everyday experiences?
Well, I do a lot of reading. That's one thing. Just reading other people and other people's experiences. Another one is actually, listening to the ideas of my young people. I do a quarterly marketing brainstorming with our marketing crew, constantly, listening to my young people. And I want, here's the thing. When I hear a new idea, when I hear a new idea, I want my first reaction to be, tell me more, not that won't work. And as an older person, you can really audit yourself. What's your first, when somebody comes to you with an idea, a new idea, what's, and look, look, my fingers are pointing back at me because I've caught myself. My first reaction is, that'll never work. No, 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 no. Your first reaction is, tell me more. Tell me more. And if I can cultivate that spirit, tell me more, that will really attract young people, because I may not embrace it, and there may be reasons why it'll never work. But the first thing that the new generation needs to hear from the older generation is, tell me more. Tell me your idea. I want to hear it.
Yeah, which takes, we talked about this already today a couple of times, a big dose of humility.
Yeah.
To recognize that, hey, you may not know everything.
Yeah.
Somebody asked here, legal protection when you're bringing for mentoring, bringing people. I mean, you're exposing yourself quite a bit by everything that you're doing. Can you talk briefly about that? How you make sure that somebody else isn't going to own your farm, Joel?
Yeah. So we do have workman's comp. And so, I mean, just from a practical standpoint, and yeah, we do understand that we are risking, but that means that you put a lot of time and attention on training. So, for example, nobody drives a tractor until our head mechanic has certified them that they're able to drive the tractor. Nobody even drives a four-wheeler until they've been checked out and okayed to drive a four-wheeler. So we have echelons of capabilities here. Some people can drive a four-wheeler that can't drive a tractor. Some people can drive a four-wheeler and a tractor that aren't certified to drive a pickup truck towing a cattle trailer. But we have these echelons, and we put a lot of attention. Listen, if anybody listening here is thinking that what I'm describing is a way to get cheap or free labor, it ain't. It's not free or cheap labor. But you have to have the heart of a teacher, the heart of a mentor, the patience of Job, and the grace of God to go through this. When people say, "Oh, you got all this free help," I say, "All right, do you buy gloves? Do you buy gloves 50 pair at a time? Do you buy earplugs 500 at a time? Do you buy sledgehammers 6 at a time? Do you buy channel lock pliers 6 at a time?" It just happens. But there's something so powerful and profound about seeing these young people sprout, germinate, and succeed, that I just, it's worth it. Yeah, could something go haywire? And yeah, welcome to life. Welcome to life. Anything in life can do that. But we put a lot of emphasis on training, so that we minimize catastrophes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We
That's
don't,
good.
by the way, we don't allow any steward, these 5-month stewards, who then can become apprentices. And then that's what feeds into our actual salaried or subcontractor farm team. We don't allow any of them to run a chainsaw.
Okay.
All right. So we do have some prohibitions, just for self-protection, and that's one of them.
Cool. Yeah, these are some good questions that are coming in the chat here, and we might need a little clarification, Crystal, on this one, but I think it has to do with empowering that next generation to be a steward, or your mentees, your new employees. She asked, does the young person take ownership or just management? Is there an upside potential? Is there a base wage? How do you?
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going with that question, Crystal.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
specifically
great.
talking about, the next generation, especially your children, basically.
Oh, do I have any books about that? So I have one book, Family Friendly Farming, is all about what I'm just describing here. The other one is Fields of Farmers, which is more about the apprenticeship apprenticeship program and the subcontractor memorandum of understanding program. So let me, as far as ownership, so it's all over the board. Some people don't want to take any, they don't have any money and they don't want to take any ownership, but they're willing to own, they're confident enough to say, I'm willing to share risk and I'll take charge of something. All right. So maybe we own the chickens, we own the egg mobile, we own the feed, but they're going to take charge of that egg mobile and take care of the eggs and all that. Another might say, well, I want to, I'll own the chickens and own the feed and own the egg mobile and I'll bring you the eggs. Well, so then they obviously get a higher compensation. So your compensation plan recognizes the various risks and values.
Maybe.
Another thing that we do is even for our salaried people, who of course have a very clear MOU of expectation, all of them know that if they can conceive of another enterprise, a complementary enterprise that we're not doing, we embrace that. Side hustles. We love side hustles. So we have 3 team members, for example, that are salaried that are raising sheep, and they're all collaborating. We market all the lambs through us, makes marketing real easy. We sell all the lambs in like 24 hours when we put it on the website. And they're each doing it a little bit differently, but they collaborate and they're just getting a lot of energy from each other in the different ways that they're raising their lambs. And so so that's a side hustle. Another couple, they're doing a tiny stay. They came to us and said, we'd like to dabble in hospitality. We've never had, we never had a overnight stays here. Could we dabble in that? So they outfitted a tiny house. We picked a site up on a hill, set it up there, and they're running a tiny stay, and it's a multi-$1,000, tens of thousands of dollars actually side hustle now. It's not Airbnb, it's not VR, it's just on our website, but we get a royalty. Obviously, if it weren't for us, they wouldn't have any business, and so it's just been a great way for them to have ownership. They own it. And handle it all. We have another a lady who does all of our grass stains tours, and she's done this now for almost 10 years, and she's up to, I don't know what, 130 tours a year. These are private tours, but somebody wants to come and see. And we've got another guy did mushrooms on the side. We've got another one that taps maple trees. He taps about 100 taps a year, makes 30 to 40 gallons of maple syrup. So it's a little it's a little $3,500 side hustle, but he enjoys doing it. He owns it. He's the maple syrup man. And so actually cultivating or encouraging these side hustles and having a habitat that all of our people know, hey, if I can come up with something. And we had one that raised bloody butcher corn and made heritage cornmeal out of an old 1900 small mill, and it was wonderful. Sold it, and it was great. And so there's lots of opportunities for other things that people can do, and we're totally open to that.
Yeah. Good questions. I'm not sure if I know what this acronym is, the ACTS, for those starting out. What are your thoughts on it? Do you know what that is? ACTS? Chris, if you're there, you can clarify maybe.
Yeah, I
it's
think it's
ACTS Decentralized Real Estate with
it's
TJ.
an ag community.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I became involved with them. I'm a little bit getting into this a little bit later in life, coming up on 48. But I've been entrenched in your Farm Like a Lunatic and your books, and even getting into the dairy grazing apprenticeship, preparing for my transition. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on, I know that you're aware of ACTS, just wanted to get your thoughts on that avenue into farming, especially for those who have no experience.
Yeah, so there are all sorts of agri-hoods. I mean, there's um there this comes under different guises, and there are all sorts of different, I mean, it's almost like an agricultural homeowners association, where somebody buys a piece of land and then it's chopped up. Some of them, all the houses are on one side to preserve the big open land. Other, it's chopped up into 10-acre lots, and everybody has their own. These are all different kinds of systems. You know, the future is gonna show how they go. I think in general, the the bugaboo for all these things is going to be relational, not actually practical. How do you grow stuff? Because people can always figure out how to grow stuff. The problem is how to get along doing it. And and so I think time will tell, but certainly, agricultural communities, I think, are definitely a way in for a lot of people. And you'll have somebody there with expertise, hopefully, somebody that knows plumbing, somebody that knows electrical, somebody that knows small engine. And so I think we're still fairly early in what's going to be the model that actually works. And I think just time will tell. Yeah, I'm not ready to say yay or nay or pass judgment. I think they're early, and I'm excited to see the creativity in this space of trying to create a plot down agricultural community. Just, boom. I think that's a neat concept.
Thanks for the answer.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. Robert asked a question. Do you recommend programs like AmeriCorps for internships? Says he works with Land Grant University and has put 28 students through a research program. If you want to add anything to that, Robert, you can, but are there programs out there who help supply you with interns, whether that be universities or wolfing programs, other places like that?
Yeah. We don't collaborate with anyone. We have found that the stipulations on woofers are not very acceptable. We've tried different things, and we've just learned, for us, we need somebody for 5 months, because the first month they lose you money. The second month they break even, and you need a couple to feel good about it and get your money back. Um, a lot of these things, they're just viewed as um, peasant help. And we want people to leave here and actually be able to make a living farming. And so, that takes lectures, it takes field trips, it takes a lot of mentoring and a lot of show me, and just, yeah, we put, I don't think most people realize how much time and effort we put into investing in these young people to make it an eclectic, comprehensive, and really, really meaningful experience. So many of these programs are just, do a kind of a simple task and do it over and over and over again. Weed the beans, measure the raindrops in the plastic, whatever. And so we've just kind of gone our own way. We would love to have our program endorsed by some accredited university that would give a semester's credit or something for a young person being here. But so far, we haven't been able to make anything like that work.
What a shame. Should be more than a semester. That should be a master's degree, I think, Joel.
Yeah. Yeah, well, certainly the apprenticeship.
Yeah.
We had one steward, he had an ag degree, and he said, I've learned more, he said, learned more here in a week than I learned in my whole degree in ag college. So generally, we shy away from colleges just because they tend to view everything as an academic question, and we're not. We don't mind academics, but we got to we got to get work done. We can't sit
Yeah.
here and have an academic focus group discussion on everything that we do. So we find that there's a kind of inverse relationship. The more education you have, the less likely you will be to succeed here. And the less education you have, the more likely you'll be to succeed here.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. What is the appropriate size or scale of a farm or ranch operation, Joel? And I know that depends, but I mean, just based on your experience, there's, I guess we consult with people who are thousands and even millions of acres. We consult with people that are just starting out. And if you could pick a sweet spot, where would that be?
Oh, well, a lot of it depends on where you are. I mean, a 25
Sure.
acre, a 25 acre farm in Eastern Virginia is a whole lot different than a 25 acre farm at 8,000 feet elevation in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. So, a lot of it depends on where you are. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I think, and a lot of times the best thing is to not own any land. Uh, one of the beauties of what we do here is with all the portable infrastructure, mobile infrastructure, we feel like one of the things that we can offer the young farmer germination movement is a mobile farm. And if you can move your infrastructure around, you don't have to own the land, which is the single largest capital investment that a farmer makes. And there's not a square foot of farmland in the world that wouldn't benefit, for example, from pastured poultry, chickens, eggs, turkeys, ducks. And so when you have a mobile infrastructure set up, you can place it as a stackable, permaculture stackable enterprise on a vineyard, an orchard, a beef cattle, dairy, any kind of place. And so the mobile infrastructure is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I like that. Clay's got a question. You want to unmute and ask it, Clay? The podcaster can't find the unmute button. Oh. Okay, I'll ask it for him.
You caught me multitasking again.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay.
Changed the battery in a pickup while I was listening, and I was washing up after that. So I guess, how do you help young people find their passion? You got so many different young people coming there. How do you help them find out where they fit on your place?
How do we help them find out where they fit? Well, I mean, they wouldn't come
What
here.
they're passionate about. Well, specifically what they are passionate about.
But you've got a variety of different things happening on the operation.
Well,
and so I'm sure there's things that they like better than others.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in the chicken processing, they do a lot of chicken processing, and by the end of the summer, some really enjoy the killing, some enjoy the quality control, some enjoy the gutting, some enjoy the packaging. And so I think the answer to that is that's why you have to try so many things. That's why I think one of the things that we can offer with our forestry work and our different animals and all the different things that we do, it's we're always trying to think of another thing that even if it's small, just to dip your toe in that water and see if it floats somebody's boat. And for sure, they tend to find things. Obviously, most of the young people who come here are interested in livestock. We have very few gardeners, who want to come, and generally people gravitate either toward plants or animals, or even in plants they gravitate toward either perennials, like berries and fruit trees, or vegetables and produce, annuals, and so you even have those spectrums. Most people are not expert at everything. They kind of pick their pathway, but the way you find the pathway that floats your boat is to ride in a whole lot of boats. And so the the whole, so our mission statement for the 5-month stewardship program, our mission statement is come for 5 months and find out if you have what it takes to be a farmer. So it's a very simple mission statement. Do you have what it takes? Do you like getting up early in the morning? Do you like working hard? Do you like being dirty? Do you like being outside? Do you like, good physical, labor? And then for the apprenticeship program, which is 12 months beyond the stewardship program, that mission statement is come for 12 months, learn the polyface way and how to duplicate it anywhere in the world. And so we have very, very different mission statements for the two different programs.
Yeah. That was a great question, Clay. Appreciate that. So let's say that you are appointed Secretary of Agriculture. What changes would you make to policy to make and why?
So I would do one thing, and I'm a simple guy. I can't think about 20 things. So I'm gonna just say one thing. The one thing that I would do is I would push through a constitutional amendment that would give every American citizen the right to the food of their choice from the source of their choice. And what that would do is give people standing similar to and I hate to even use it, but it's, we're talking about life and death here. So let's talk about, if we talk about abortion right now, if a state allows abortion, nobody can keep me from going to a clinic and get an abortion. Okay. That is a right that is conferred. And so right now, a lot of people don't realize you don't have a right to choose the food of your choice. You don't have that right. You only have the right to choose the food that the government says is okay for you to acquire. Now, there is a black market. Yes, there is. But the problem is, if you want to come to my farm and buy something that the government says is illegal, I can't sell it to you because you don't have a standing to acquire the food of your choice. So if I want to sell you homemade charcuterie that's unlicensed and outside the government prerogative, stamp of approval, right now I can't sell that to you. But if we had a right of food acquisition among, consenting adults, you could come to my farm, and if a bureaucrat got in the way and said, no, you can't buy that guy's milk or that guy's charcuterie, you could say, no, I have a right to the food of my choice from the cut, just like I have a right to go get an abortion. You can't stop me. And if we did that, listen, I meet thousands of farmers every year, thousands, who aren't doing things because it's illegal, because licensing is too expensive, because compliance is too expensive. And the result is, A, the farmer can't make a living, and B, a consumer is unable to acquire the food of their choice. They're now required to go to some other place and pay more or get an inferior product. And so the one thing that I would do is get that hurdle off so that we could actually have freedom of food choice among consenting adults, so that if you want to come to my farm, ask around, smell around, look around, make a voluntary choice as a consenting adult, we should be able to transact food commerce without a bureaucrat getting involved. I'm not talking about being able to sell to Walmart. I'm not talking about being able to sell to Piggly Wiggly or Sam's Club. I'm just saying direct farmer to producer commerce should be able to be transacted without a bureaucrat involved. That level of freedom. And if we did that, it would right now, we've got people who are complaining about the oligarchy, the centralization in the food system, the oligarchy of the big meat packers, the oligarchy of the big canneries, whatever. The only reason we have those oligarchies and they have so much power, 4 companies control 85% of America's meat supply. The only reason we have that is because we don't have ease of competition in the marketplace. The day we open up market opportunities will be the day that those big centralized outfits get competition and we begin to actively defund a lot of those big centralized outfits that are the most insecure, unsafe, and unstable food sources around, as proven by the 2020 COVID crisis. And so if we really want stability, security, and safety in our food system, the shorter the chain of custody, the better off we'll all be. And the more responsibility both producer and consumer assume in the transaction. In other words, I'm responsible for producing it, you're responsible for buying it. We'll assume responsibility. We're not gonna divest that responsibility off to a bureaucrat. The more responsibility we assume, the more transparency and the more chances there are of the food system actually working.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. We all know what a challenge that would be and the pushback that we would get, but
Yeah.
imagine that. So, well, Joel, thank you. It's been an honor to have you part of this summit. It's we're talking about building lasting businesses here in the agriculture space, and yeah, certainly you exemplify that. You walk the walk, and we're grateful that you would take time out of your day to be here with us. So,
Sure.
any
Thank you.
last thought, Joel, before we sign off here?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a parting thought before we sign off?
Last parting thought is, there's a lot of dysfunction in our culture right now. I'll just say a lot of concerns and frustrations. And so if you want to make a list to be angry about, you can make it. Go ahead and make that list, but let's invert it so that we take all of that energy and friction in our insides about things that are frustrating and to be angry about, and invert it to proactive solutions so that we become help and hope when society becomes helpless and hopeless. That's where we need to head. Be positive.
Amen. Amen. All right. There's a few amens in the comments too. So yeah. Thank you. Please send Joel some love in the comments, and appreciate you being part of this event, Joel.
Great.
Sure hope you have a blessed day and look forward to shaking your hand again here someday.
You too. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, cool. Okay, you guys. Well, we are a little more than halfway through our day. We're grateful for those who've participated so far, and man, just some great takeaways there. Grateful that Joel was able and willing to be our keynote speaker. I think he is able to really tie things in with the focus of this summit. So we're going to keep going. As always, if you need to, stand up, go get a drink, take a break. As you could see, they brought me food. I had anybody else share in the chat what you had for lunch, but I had fajitas minus the tortillas. It's pretty good too. And thank you, William, for growing the tomatoes and our own homegrown grass-fed